Hello, this is a brief guide to A-level history at TAFE from sixth form, and to run over what we study and how you'll be assessed, to give you an idea of what things will be like from September. So we cover the AQA syllabus and we study 3 topics over the 2 years. You have different teachers for each of the components and you can see those on the screen. And 2 of these are equally weighted at 40% each, are exam based and end up with 2.5 hour exams, and 1 is a 20% piece of coursework, which is a large essay. They've now extended the word limit to about 5,000 words, and again you have a lot of help with that, some teaching about it in the first year, and then be working on that at the end of year 12. The first paper is all about the Tudors, and you work all the way through from the Wars of the Roses, which you're doing some of the summer work for, all the way through Henry VII and Henry VIII in year 12, and then through his children in year 13. And in Germany, it's called Democracy and Dictatorship, and we look at the fallout of World War I, which again you're looking at for your preparation work. And we look mainly at the Weimar Republic years and the rise of dictatorship in Germany up to 1933. And then we look at the second half, the actual regime itself, and its collapse during World War II up to 1945 in year 13. And then finally you'll be looking at the Crusades, and again looking at that whole period, and then deciding exactly what you want to focus in on in your historical investigation. So Miss Williams is teaching the Tutor Unit in 2020, and again you can see there the topics he'll be covering. I'm taking the second unit on German history, and finally Miss Richardson, the head of history, will be taking the coursework unit on the Crusades. History at A-level is similar to GCSE, but also, and will have lots of overlap, but also is a really sort of big step up, and the 3 key skills that you're assessed on are on the screen. The first one is probably no surprise, so knowledge and understanding, and essentially, to express yourself, so to make arguments about causes, consequences, changes, similarities and differences, and that's really could be sort of essay writing as far as understanding the material and being able to reach your own opinion on it. AO2 is all about evaluating, so this will be looking at material from the time, so it could be primary material, that's the evidence that historians use as their raw tools, and again deciding how accurate that information is and what it tells you, and that's primarily covered in the coursework and in paper 2. And then finally AO3, which is about looking at the interpretations and how different people have looked at history at different times, and again this is covered in the coursework and in Unit 1. So these are our 3 kind of core areas that you'll be looking at. So on Mr. Williams' paper 1 on the Tudors, again you can see there you have 3 questions. The first question is a compulsory historical interpretations question, which will always be worded, as you can see, in that sort of way, using your understanding of the context, assess how convincing the arguments are, and you'll have 3 extracts or 3 bits of information to use to help you with that. And then you have a choice of 2 out of 3 essays, and again these all starting at how successful, to what extent, or how far, and again you have to reach a conclusion on your judgment. For my paper 2, the first question again is compulsory, but this time it is using primary materials. That's materials and source evidence from the time. Again, they'll give you 3 bits of source information that you can use. And again, think about what it is, what it's telling you, how reliable and useful it is, and then explaining that in your answer whilst comparing between them. And then finally, again, exactly the same as Mr. Williams, a choice of 2 out of 3 essays, worded exactly the same, obviously on a different historical period. One of the big differences is, as you probably can see, is the Tudors covers a much larger period, so that's why it's known as the breadth study. And the German paper is only covering a small period of about 30 years, that's known as the depth study. Again, you'll get lots of guidance with the coursework as well, and lots of materials. Ms. Richardson has a fantastic Crusades library that will be helping you through with those materials. The department do provide textbooks, and you can see some of the textbooks on the screen that you'll be using. Again, it might be useful to get your own copy if you're a bursary student, of course, we can order these for you. And again, that means you can highlight and make notes and annotate quite easily. And again, gives that extra advantage, while of course books borrowed from school have to be returned. And I would strongly advise for each of the 2 exams units, and for your coursework as well, you bring your own separate folder and keep the work completely separate. So you'll have 4 lessons a fortnight with Mr. Williams, 4 with myself, and then 1 lesson with Miss Richardson. And that means that over the 2 years you get that 40-40-20 split of teaching that matches the percentage of the assessment. So what can you be doing to get ready? Again, if you have already been at TAFE from high school, you would have already studied parts of these periods in not as much depth, but you'd have an overall understanding maybe of what happened in Weimar and Nazi Germany from end of year 9 and beginning of year 10, and from year 11 a bit of information about the Tudors, although you may have entered lockdown before you'd finished that topic this year. So we have set you some transition tasks to get ready, and again they've been available with you since April, so they are compulsory and they do need to be completed. They'll be marked when you bring them in September by their respective teachers, but also as part of induction we're providing some additional tasks as well. Again, these are voluntary, but again could be really worth doing. And one reason we cover these topics like the Tudors and Nazi Germany is they're very, very current. There's lots of information, there's lots of radio programmes, TV programmes, articles about them, and the more you can read, the more wider reading you do, the better you're going to be in your studies. And again, libraries are full of books on these topics. So I hope that gives you a little introduction to the course, and I look forward to seeing you in September.